Welcome back to the Authentic Human Podcast, the place to be when you're tired of feeling lied to or that you're blocked from the truth. I'm Michelle Vickers, and since January 2025, I've been working closely with the creator and a number of universal beings to retell, if you will, the story of creation. Not because the story itself has been told before, but because it's never been told. It's never been told to us as humans from the universal perspective. So this is what our goal is right now. And today is part 63 of the story of creation. So in part 62, we had something that happened that has never happened before. Up until then, we would have a very specific or handful, sometimes it was just one or two or three universal beings, but they would give you awareness that the episode was ultimately going to occur with that being or not, that couple beings. In part 62, and I didn't really understand this until after the recording was finished, which was phenomenal. We started a round table, okay? And so what a round table is it's basically what I've been doing for the last 20 years. But it's having communications with any and all beings at any given time. So what we've done up until now is created a foundation for the level of awareness we're moving into, right? So for our brains to accept truth, we have to hear it in layers. We have to hear it in layers that not only make sense as far as existence, but they have to be able to be approachable. That's what they're showing me, right? The energy needs to be approachable, because if it is so extreme, then you're not even going to let the door open. Forget about letting the awareness and the truth inside, right? And so what they introduced now is the round table. And what that means is no matter what they're talking about, any universal being is going to come in and share their perspective, their opinion on that aspect of existence. So how that looks, what that means is we're getting into more finite information now, okay? So we're going to the place where, this isn't about laying the foundation. This is about building on top of that foundation, because we've already laid the basis of the foundation. The one thing they're showing me, the one thing about universal existence is it's very clean, it's very simple, right? It's not complicated, and yet it's infinite. So our brains are very locked into the concept of time and space. And what that means is when you hear the information, you're interpreting it inside of the awareness of your beliefs that occur around time and space. Okay. And what that means is, if they talk about mental telepathy, if they talk about energetic communication, right? Your perspective, just feel into those things right now, right? Your perspective is how we communicate with other humans, or, how we communicate with our soul, right? But it's understanding that universal communication is vast, it's infinite. It doesn't have a beginning or an ending. And because we're going to this finite level, different universal beings are going to come in and share their perspectives. And so that's why they wanted to open the round table, so that you can understand. I'm going to be able to share, different beings are going to come in, but they're going to pop in from time to time. There may be 10 in an episode. There may be 2, but it's understanding that from here on out, it's not so much about that being's awareness, right? Which is, it has been up until now, because they hold that aspect of existence. It's now about evolution and understanding how humanity, right? First, how existence, and then how humanity evolved, but also how creation itself has evolved. And this is really important, because the fundamentals are the same, but our capacity to create is now extensive compared to what it was when we were first created, first experiencing creation. And so, we've got the creator right now, and he wants to, he wants to explain in more detail, more finite detail, the concept of connection and communication. So we've got this awareness of what we think the brain is capable of, right? So that's our determination of the brain's capacity. And yet there's also the awareness that, we use about 3 to 5%. Some humans can go up to 7% brain capacity that's actually used. But for the most part, our brains are dormant. Okay. And so I want you to feel this for a moment. Okay. Why would that be? Why is your brain dormant? Right? Especially when we've been taught on a human level that your brain is the foremost functioning aspect of your existence, right? It's leading you, right? You've been taught, we go to school, education goes into your mind, right? Stretch your mind, build all of your knowledge, your wisdom, right? But our knowledge and wisdom is based on stuff you know. So just fill it and stretch your mind, okay? And what they're saying is the misinterpretation here, okay, is really based on a misrepresentation. And that's based on the education system, but it's based on the model of science-based evidence that determines health and well-being based on on the scientific research. This is really important. And why they're sharing this is because this is where we get to break free. We get to break those bonds so that we can actually begin to use they're not parts of our brain that we're not using, okay? It's the aspects of our existence that ignite the portions of our brains that are dormant. Very different than a part of your brain, okay? What does that mean? It means it's dormant because you're not allowing energy to flow through it. Feel that for a minute. It's that simple. And I know your brain is like, what are you even talking about? But here's the thing. Your beliefs tell the energy in your body what it can do, what it can't do. It sets the rules. Your beliefs tell the energy of your soul where it can go and what it can do in your life, only in your physical life. That's the kicker. Your brain can only control your physical life. It cannot control the fullness of your soul. That's why we still have seeming miracles, right? Or crazy experiences that are unexplained, right? Because those are happening from the will of your soul, not your mind. Okay? And so what's happening right now in human history, okay? We are literally writing history in this moment, right? Think about it. 150 years from now, your ancestors are going to be studying you. Why? Because you're participating in the most incredible opportunity and experience that humanity has ever participated in, ever. And right now, what the creator is saying is it's about reigniting your faith in your capacity to participate. Okay? So it's allowing energy to flow through your body. and through your mind. Your mind is going to say, well, how do I do that? I want to do it, but how do I do that? It's allowing yourself to relax into the fact that you already know this is truth. You can already feel it. You're just not allowing it to flow. Your brain, right? You've been taught that your brain is how you prove yourself to the world and how you exercise your strengths and how you avoid your weaknesses. That's what you've been taught, to use your brain. But that's not what your brain is for. Your brain is a witness to every experience you've had, similar to consciousness itself. Just feel that for a minute. Your brain is designed in similar fashion to consciousness itself. What does that mean? Consciousness is where everything in existence is held. It's not kept secret. It's just held in a space for your reference. But why would you need reference? Because your story matters. Every experience you've ever had has created an opportunity for you to become more of a participant in evolution and existence, more of an explorer of who you are and what you're capable of. So your brain is designed to hold that information. It's not designed to hold facts from other people's stories, but that's what you've been feeding it. Every book you read, everything you study, you feed into your mind. Every movie you watch. And this is what's created. They're showing me, it's like social anxiety. So the more we put in our brains externally, right? And externally means anybody's story other than you. Because originally humans we were much more independent. We didn't spend tons of time in big groups. We didn't spend, tons of time partying with other people. There was no such thing as poisoning your mind or your body, right? So there was no alcohol consumption, there was no drugs. But it wasn't always about getting together. We collectively came together to celebrate aspects of existence. So the solstices are celebrations of creation itself and the balance that is there and the shift from one state of being to another. Okay. There were not they're showing me even birthdays and, we've become this world that is addicted to, right? Recognition, external recognition. Okay. So I worked on this. I got a reward. I got a prize. I got a certificate. I got a whatever it is. So let's all get together and celebrate, right? I hit this new goal. Someone tells me they've approved, right? They've approved my level of participation. And so what's happened is our brains have, ultimately they've shut down because they're not being used. We're not using them to access truth. We're filling them with stuff, right? So they're designed as, it's like a vault, a chest that they're supposed to, your most beautiful and the important things go in it. And those important things are all of your experiences, right? Everything you've learned and who you've become as a result of what you've learned. And the challenge is not from the perspective of, oh, poor me, I can't believe I had to go through this. This is so hard. From the perspective of, wow, that allowed me to face another fear. It allowed me to face a belief about myself that I didn't understand before. And that is what your mind, your brain, is supposed to be filled with. Why? Because that's what fills you with inspiration. That's what fills you with drive and determination. And then what happens? Then you're going to go out and participate in cultivating your fulfillment. If you have a whole bunch of other stuff in your head, there is no way that you want to participate in fulfillment. Participation is the last thing you want to do. You want to just keep feeding it more of other people's information. That's exactly what they were counting on. And eventually, our minds shut down. They came back to the place where energy is null and void. So it's not being driven through the brain. So, how do we change this? How do we fix this, right? First, it's understanding you're not broken. You just turned off the energy. You just turned the tap off, right? We got to turn it back on. But it's not as simple as walking into your room and you're, turning on the sink. It's understanding that it's what you have to remove that's vital here. It's not about what you need to turn on. Humans are excellent at, here, I'll take that too. I'll take that too. Yeah, I'll have some. Give me some of that. We're very poor at saying, no, thank you. I'll get rid of what I already have here and I'll get rid of what I already have there. We don't want to give up the things that we believe bring us comfort and joy. Okay. So turning off all of these parts that we've been turning off culture, turning off, right? We value culture. As a society, culture is one of the, it's fascinating really what they're showing me. Culture is one of the foremost examples of value in your history. But culture is part of what's poisoning you because you are not your culture. They're experiences that you have to fulfill your potential. That's it. It's about allowing yourself to identify, to learn to identify with your soul, with the energy of who you are, so you can transcend the physical limitations of your human self. Even just saying it, it's a lot. And it's not going to happen overnight. It's not. They're showing me it's going to take about 400 or 500 years. Okay. So the likelihood of you accomplishing this whole thing in your lifetime is pretty slim. Okay. Unless you're committed to figuring out how to live that long. It is possible. But again, you would have to be extremely committed, right? And yeah, we won't go into that side because that's a whole other story. But what they're sharing and what they want to explain more than anything is your ability to fulfill that mission, right? That mission of restoring full awareness of your soul in this life means you have to be willing to let go of every physical aspect of yourself that blocks that experience from unfolding. And the list is long. Okay. Up until now, we've been able to walk the line between the two worlds, right? Being physical and human and being energy aware. Okay. But now we're going to that place where awareness means more than anything. And we can no longer hold ourselves back in that way that says, this is enough. This is enough. I'm okay with this. Because what they're showing me is this hunger inside, this hunger that craves contentment, that craves peace, that craves purity, is waiting to be satiated, is the word that they're using. It's waiting to be not only fed, but experienced. And so the first step is self-recognition, which 2025 is the year of self-recognition. And the first part of that is understanding connection and communication. What does that mean on a universal level, right? It's understanding that your mind is not only for your story, it's connected to consciousness itself. So it is an aspect of consciousness, right? It's created in the same with the same foundation, but it's also connected to consciousness. That's how when you it's really cool. So it's almost like if you imagine from your brain to consciousness, right? There's a waterfall, and then from consciousness to your brain, there's a waterfall. Okay? But it's when you understand it from the perspective that your brain is not a physical organ, it's the manifestation of the physical representation of the energetic being that is you. Okay. So we've got it, look at it this way, right? We've got the universe. Okay. And consciousness is like the universe's brain. Right. So your brain is your soul's consciousness. Okay. It's not now consciousness and the soul of who you are very different, right? Because the consciousness is what holds the wisdom, the information, the experiences, every single thing that's ever occurred is held in energy so that you have all that awareness and you can access it whenever you want. But it doesn't make the decisions and choices. And this is where a lot of people, want to go to consciousness to be driven, right? In the sense of, tell me what I need to do. Consciousness will never tell you what you need to do. It only holds the wisdom of everything that's ever occurred. It does not hold the awareness of what you're capable of and who you are. That's in your soul. Okay? Making sense? These are big concepts, guys. But it's understanding, right? That your brain is designed to connect and communicate with consciousness. That's how I'm doing this, right? Every aspect of existence is available to you. You have to allow the energy to flow through your mind, right? To receive, right? That's like that receiver, right? So it comes in and it goes out. It comes through the energy. And the energy is transformed in your mind into words and visuals and feelings, right? Through your senses so that you can experience them. So what they want you to do, what you're being encouraged to practice is focusing on, again, how you feel, not your emotions, not your emotional reactions, okay? When you're doing something, how does it actually feel? If you're taking a shower, how does it feel when the water touches your body? How does it feel when it runs down your body? Very different than just touching. Okay? How does it feel when you put soap on? If you put soap on, how does it feel? How does it feel to be in the presence of birds if you're walking in the forest? How does it feel to have your body move and your legs walk? How does that feel? We're going to primal feelings, guys. That's what existence is based on. And we have been taught that your emotions are feelings. Your emotional reaction is what your brain, it's the story your brain tells you based on the information that's in your head. That's why emotions are useless. They're absolutely useless. The only thing that an emotion can tell you is, look here, because there's a reaction and you're not balanced. The only time emotions are good is when you're out of balance and you need to come back into balance. So I guess they're not really useless. They're quite useful, I guess, at the moment. But that's it. They can't go further than that. They can't tell you any information, right? That's consciousness. And your brain is designed in the exact same way, but you have to use it in the right way. It's all about energy. Okay. That's the same energy that connects every single human being to every other human being, right? It's exactly the same as how the trees talk to each other. You know, are they talking through the roots? Absolutely. But they're also communicating through the energy. They're feeding each other, right? It's the same thing. Humans are feeding each other. It's why you have that thing called mob mentality, right? When you have a whole bunch of people together, they start to feel and think the same way. Why? Because the energy is communicating. And we are energy, we're battery packs ultimately of energy. So when there's lots of energy around us, it charges us up. And we choose to feel into it and we feed it. Listen, we were not meant to be reactive in this way, right? That's why we're not meant to hang out with tons of people. It's not normal. It's normal in our society, but it is not normal to the foundation of creation itself, right? You don't even have to be in the physical presence of someone if you want to experience their wisdom, because their consciousness, right? Everything that they've ever experienced is in consciousness itself. So you don't have to have a conversation with the human if you don't want to. And yet, if that person is able to have a conversation based on truth, based on the elements of consciousness without changing those elements so they become non-truth, because that's usually what happens, right? So they take the aspects of consciousness. If you think about one topic, it doesn't even matter what it is, but then you have, 50 people that write different books and papers about it. And then you have people that speak about on that topic. A whole bunch of people have given their opinions. Sometimes it's thousands of people who've written about the same topic, right? It could be marketing, it could be therapy, it could be any aspect of existence, depression, all of these things. And then what happens is every time someone gives their opinion, right, their perspective, so they're writing it from their mind, okay? So their mind is holding emotional reactions, so traumas, the emotional reactions that are based on that person's traumas and their experiences. They've heard other people tell them because they've had, thousands of clients or patients. The reality is we value information that's coming from the wrong sources. If information is anything other than the universal perspective, it's going to have loopholes in it. It's going to have problems and it's going to cause more challenges for you if your ultimate goal is truth. Okay? Because the human mind is riddled with pain and suffering, right? It's why when I wrote Believe, I couldn't go to a publishing house because it is literally written from the universal perspective of the 9 fundamental energies that are inside you as a soul being. How could I have someone edit that? I couldn't. I couldn't even edit it. I mean, definitely had a handful of friends and family read and look for spelling errors and logistical errors where sentences wouldn't make sense. But it couldn't be edited. Information couldn't be changed because, again, universal perspective shares information in a way that allows your brain to comprehend it and open up and let more in, right? I don't need to come from an expert approach of I'm the expert because I don't need to be an expert. I just came here to do what I do. And that's what humanity is missing right now. We are so focused on the goals and the accolades and the resources that we can use to prove that we got there. And yet those resources are not universal. They're tainted. Your mind is not being used in the way that it was meant to. And all of these pieces go together. So if you're sucking up information from someone else's mind that is not created in the way that it is meant to be created, and don't get me wrong, there are people out there who are able to reach that sweet spot of universal perspective, but it's a matter of being able to hold it through a whole book or through a whole lecture. But there are those who can do it, and you know it because you feel it. It touches your soul. And when your soul is touched, it is because you are experiencing awareness from a universal perspective that is opening a space in you that's sometimes inspiring, sometimes it makes you angry, sometimes it makes you frustrated or scared. But what it's doing is opening up that space in you that has the potential to propel you forward into your journey. And that's the point of existence. You're meant to continuously propel yourself forward. What does that mean? It means exploring what makes you happy, what brings you joy, what you're curious about. Maybe it isn't going to bring you joy, but the joy comes from the fulfillment of the experience itself. It doesn't have to look happy and joyful and exciting to anybody else in the planet. It needs to be interesting to you. Because if it's interesting to you and you follow it through, you're now participating in universal evolution. That's the goal. The next, yeah, they're showing me that for the next few weeks, we're going to go more inside the dynamics of the illusions of physical representation versus universal representation. So, how we think and who we think we are versus who we actually are and how we're actually meant to be. So, we're going to be going a lot deeper into all of those aspects of existence. We're going to challenge more beliefs. That's what we do best here. So, if you're interested, please subscribe, follow along, share, and comment. Comment and let me know how you're feeling and what your experiences are, because that's what feeds this whole project, right? It's understanding that we're documenting the history of human existence, but in the moment, we're also creating the future, right? We're doing something that's never been done before. And together, you're watching, you're witnessing. When you ask questions, when you participate, you are contributing to the evolution of human existence. So contribute. I want to hear you. I want to feel you. I want to see you. It's what makes it all worth it. Thank you so much. I'll see you next time. Bye for now.
It's like there's a motherboard. You can program anything you want into it, but it's like so much time is spent on the motherboard when all it is a device for recording.
Right?
Now, the cool part is you can record in different ways and you can change direction, except, it's you can decorate the room any way you want to and enjoy yourself. Remains the same room.
Yep.
Don't know why I offer that analogy, but it's really for me. But thank you.
And the reality is it is simple, like you said, right? And whenever it's so simple and so profound, we know, boom, we've nailed universal perspective, right? Because it's always simple, is not complicated. If it's complicated, it's someone else's perspective, not the universal perspective. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you enjoyed this conversation and want to learn more, head on over to michellevickers.com. Join our mailing list to receive new episodes right to your inbox or apply to be a guest on the show. If this episode made you think of someone while you were listening, forward the link onto that person with a little note about why it made you think of them, because the greatest gift you can give another human is to see the beauty and purity of who they truly are. Until next time, stay curious.